The final notice from the bank sat on my desk like a death sentence. 30 days. That's all we had left before Chen's Garden, my family's restaurant for 4 generations, would be forced to close its doors forever. I stared at the mounting bills scattered across the antique desk that had once belonged to my grandmother. Unpaid suppliers, overdue utilities, and a mortgage we could barely afford. It all added up to a truth I'd been trying to deny for months. We were finished. Mia. My father's voice called from the kitchen. The supplier is here. He's demanding payment for last week's delivery. I closed my eyes, fighting back tears. Tell him I'll have it by Friday. Another lie. Another promise I couldn't keep. The restaurant's account had exactly $427.82 in it, not nearly enough to cover the $3,000 we owe for supplies. Chen's Garden had been a landmark in our small town since 1943, when my great-grandparents opened it after immigrating from China. The building itself was a beautiful 3-story Victorian, with the restaurant occupying the first floor and our family living spaces above. For 80 years, it had been more than just a restaurant. It was our home, our heritage, our heart. But times had changed. The new shopping mall on the outskirts of town had brought in a dozen chain restaurants. Our once loyal customers were drawn away by flashy promotions and standardized menus. Even our signature dishes, passed down through generations, couldn't compete with the convenience and consistency of corporate competitors. I walked through the kitchen, nodding to our skeleton crew, just 3 people now, down from the 12 we'd employed last year. The lunch rush had dwindled to a handful of elderly regulars who still remembered when my grandmother Rose had run the kitchen with an iron fist and a golden touch. Grandma Rose. Even now, 5 years after her passing, I could still hear her voice, still smell the distinctive aroma of her secret spice blend that made our food unique. She'd been the heart of Chen's Garden for over 50 years, transforming it from a simple Chinese restaurant into something special, a place where traditional recipes met innovative twists, where every dish told a story. "We need to talk," my father said quietly as I passed him. His once proud shoulders were slumped, his chef's jacket showing signs of wear we couldn't afford to replace. "The numbers aren't adding up, Mia. Maybe it's time to consider Mr. John's offer." I felt my jaw clench. Peter John, a developer who'd been buying up properties all over town, had offered to purchase our building for what he called a generous price. He planned to tear it down and build luxury condos. "No," I said firmly. "I promised Grandma Rose I'd never sell the building. You know that was her dying wish." My father sighed. "Your grandmother didn't know how bad things would get. She couldn't have foreseen this." But she had foreseen something. I remembered her final days when she called me to her bedside. Her once sharp eyes had been clouded with cataracts, but her grip on my hand had been strong. "Promise me, little dragon," she'd said, using the nickname she'd given me as a child. "Promise you'll keep the restaurant in the family. The building must stay with us, no matter what." I promised, not understanding then why she'd been so insistent about the building itself rather than just the business. Now, facing bankruptcy, that promise felt like a chain around my neck. "We have to try something," I told my father. "Give me a few days. Let me look through Grandma's old records, see if there's anything we can use to turn things around." He nodded, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. He'd already given up? That evening, after the last customer had left and the kitchen was finally quiet, I climbed the narrow stairs to the 3rd floor. We used it for storage since Grandma Rose passed away, unable to bear the thought of clearing out her things. The attic was a maze of boxes and old furniture, everything covered in a thick layer of dust. Moonlight filtered through the round window at the far end, casting strange shadows among the forgotten treasures of our family's history. I started with her desk, going through drawers filled with old receipts, handwritten notes, and newspaper clippings about the restaurant from better days. In a bottom drawer, I found a stack of photographs. Grandma Rose as a young woman, standing proudly in front of the restaurant with my grandfather. Their grand opening after renovating in 1965. My father's first day as head chef in 1990. Tucked behind the photos was a small red leather book, its spine cracked with age. My heart skipped a beat as I recognized my grandmother's elegant handwriting on the cover, "Family Secrets, to be opened only in greatest need." My hands trembled as I opened it. The pages were filled with her distinctive script, recipes, and notes written in a mix of English and Chinese. But these weren't the recipes we use in the restaurant. These were different, older somehow. The first page held a warning to my dearest granddaughter Mia. If you're reading this, our family's legacy is in danger. What follows is the true history of Chen's garden and the secret that has protected our family for generations. But beware. Once you begin, there is no turning back. Some recipes are meant to stay hidden, and some ingredients come with a price. I nearly dropped the book. How had she known I would be the one to find it? And what did she mean by the secret that has protected our family? A noise downstairs made me jump. Probably just the old building settling, but suddenly the attic felt colder, the shadows deeper. I clutched the book to my chest and hurried back to my room. That night, I stayed up late, reading by lamplight. The book contained recipes I'd never seen before, with ingredients I'd never heard of. Some had strange notations in the margins. Use only under full moon. Must be prepared with jade utensils. Serves 4 to 6. Effects last 3 days. Effects? What kind of cookbook was this? The deeper I read, the more my grandmother's warnings made sense. These weren't just recipes. They were something else entirely. Each dish came with specific instructions about when and how it should be served, and what it would do to those who ate it. Prosperity dumplings brings good fortune in business ventures for 1 lunar cycle. Warning: fortune gained may be lost from others nearby. Clarity soup allows the diner to see one true vision of their future. Caution: knowledge of fate carries its own burden. Memory tea helps recall forgotten moments with perfect clarity. Note: some memories are best left in the past. I closed the book, my mind spinning. This couldn't be real. These recipes, these warnings, they had to be some kind of metaphor, a collection of family superstitions passed down through generations. But then I remembered the stories about Grandma Rose's cooking, how people said her food made them feel different, happier, luckier, more in love. How business had always been mysteriously good, even in economic downturns. How customers would come in depressed and leave with a new spark in their eyes. I thought about the restaurant's history, 80 years of success, defying all odds until Grandma Rose passed away and took her recipes with her, or at least we thought she had. The next morning, I arrived at the restaurant before dawn, the recipe book tucked safely in my bag. The kitchen felt different somehow, as if the air itself was charged with possibility. I took out the book and turned to the first recipe: Fortune's Favor fried rice. Brings prosperity and success to business ventures. Best prepared before sunrise on the first day of the month. Warning: the good fortune must be earned, not stolen. Use with caution. Today was the first of the month. The sun wouldn't rise for another hour. I looked at the ingredients list. Most were normal things we had in the kitchen, but a few stood out. Pearl dust, moonflower petals, a single feather from a white rooster. My hand hovered over the page. If I was wrong about this, I was just wasting time we didn't have on some crazy fantasy. But if I was right, a voice that sounded remarkably like my grandmother's whispered in my mind. Some recipes are meant to stay hidden. But we were out of options. The bank wouldn't extend our loan. The customers weren't coming back. We had nothing left to lose except the building itself. The building Grandma Rose had made me promise never to sell. I turned on the kitchen lights and reached for my grandmother's old wok. Whatever secrets this book held, whatever price these recipes demanded, I had to try. For my family, for our legacy, for Grandma Rose. It took me 3 days to gather all the ingredients for Fortune's Favor fried rice. The normal ingredients were easy: fresh rice, eggs, vegetables. But the special components required more creativity. I found pearl dust at an old Chinese herbalist shop 2 towns over. The moonflower petals came from a rare night-blooming plant in our neighbor's garden. The white rooster feather was the hardest. I had to drive to a farm outside the city at dawn to find one. When everything was finally ready, I started cooking before sunrise, following my grandmother's instructions exactly. The recipe had to be prepared in a well-seasoned wok using wooden utensils. Each ingredient had to be added in precise order, with specific stirring patterns. As I cooked, something strange happened. The kitchen filled with an aroma I hadn't smelled since Grandma Rose was alive. A mysterious blend of spices and something else. Something I couldn't quite identify. The rice seemed to shimmer in the wok, each grain catching the pre-dawn light in an unusual way. My father found me just as I was finishing. "What are you making?" he asked. sniffing the air. It smells like Mom's cooking. A new special, I said, not quite lying. Want to try it? He took a small bite and his eyes widened. This is incredible. It tastes just like her food, but different somehow. What's in it? Family secret. I smiled, echoing what Grandma Rose always used to say. We put the Fortune's favorite fried rice on the lunch menu as a daily special. By noon, every table was full. People who hadn't visited in months suddenly showed up, saying they had a sudden craving for Chinese food. By the end of the week, our profits had doubled. Encouraged by this success, I tried another recipe, Harmony hot and sour soup. Brings peace and resolution to troubled relationships. Best served to quarreling parties. Note, effects strengthen with each spoonful. I served it to a couple having an intense argument in the corner booth. By the time they finished their bowls, they were holding hands and making plans for their anniversary. But it wasn't until I tried the memory mapo tofu that I discovered the true secret of my grandmother's book. The recipe called for it to be prepared at midnight during a full moon, using tofu that had been soaking in spring water for exactly 3 days. As I cooked, the spices releasing their aromatic magic into the air, something extraordinary happened. The kitchen filled with what looked like floating lights, like tiny fireflies made of mist. And in those lights, I saw memories, not just my own, but older ones, memories of the restaurant through the years. I saw my great-grandparents blessing the building when they first bought it. I saw my grandmother as a young woman, learning the magical recipes from her mother-in-law. I saw decades of family history played out in this kitchen, and I finally understood why the building was so important. The building itself was magical. The decades of cooking enchanted recipes had imbued its very walls with power. Every brick, every board held memories and magic that made the recipes work. That's why Grandma Rose had made me promise never to sell. Without this building, the recipes would lose their power. But the magic came with rules and consequences. Each recipe's warning had to be taken seriously. When I made prosperity dumplings without reading the full warning, our success came at the expense of the new mall restaurants, which all experienced mysterious equipment failures. The Clarity soup showed one customer such a vivid vision of his future that he spent 3 days in a daze. I learned to be careful, to use the recipes sparingly and wisely. Just as Grandma Rose had done, I began developing my own variations, finding ways to help people while respecting the balance of magic. The restaurant flourished. Word spread about our mysteriously delicious food that seemed to make people's lives better. We had to hire more staff, extend our hours, and start taking reservations. One evening, as I was preparing to close, Mr. John walked in. He looked troubled, his usual confident demeanor replaced by something more desperate. "Miss Chen," he said, "I want to raise my offer for the building. Name your price." I smiled, thinking of the magic humming in the walls around us. "I'm sorry, Mr. John, but this building isn't for sale. Not at any price." "You don't understand," he insisted. "I've tried developing 6 other properties in this town. Every project has failed mysteriously. This is the only location left that makes sense for my plans. I need this building." I thought about the prosperity dumplings I'd served him last week when he come in for lunch. The recipe's warning rang in my mind. Fortune gained may be lost from others nearby. "Perhaps," I suggested gently, "you should consider renovating existing buildings instead of tearing them down. Some places have history worth preserving." He left looking thoughtful, and a week later announced plans to restore the old theater downtown instead of demolishing it. As the months passed, I continued exploring the recipe book, learning its secrets and limitations. Some dishes could only be prepared during certain lunar phases. Others required specific emotional states from the cook. Each recipe was a delicate balance of physical and magical ingredients. One year after finding the book, I was in the kitchen late at night, experimenting with a new variation of the memory mapo tofu. The floating lights appeared as usual, but this time they coalesced into a familiar form, Grandma Rose. She didn't speak, but she smiled at me with pride as I cooked, her presence as warm and comforting as I remembered. I knew then that she planned this all along. The book, the recipes, the magic. She'd known I would find it when the restaurant needed it most. The next morning, I added a new page to the recipe book, beginning my own collection of magical recipes to pass down. At the top, I wrote, "To my future granddaughter, these are the secrets of our family's legacy." Use them wisely, with love and respect for the magic that lives in these walls. And remember, some buildings are more than just brick and wood. Some are filled with 80 years of dreams, memories, and a special kind of magic that only food can create. Chen's garden still stands on its corner, looking much the same as it has for 80 years. The paint might be fresher now, the sign newly gilded, but the magic remains unchanged. Every day, I cook our special recipes, watching as they bring joy, luck, love, and a little bit of magic to our customers' lives. Sometimes late at night when the kitchen is quiet except for the humming of the old refrigerator, I swear I can hear Grandma Rose laughing. Her spirit lives on in these walls, in our recipes, and in the magic that has kept our family's legacy alive for generations. And on special nights when the moon is full and the air is thick with the scent of spices and enchantment, I open her recipe book and remember her words. Some recipes are meant to stay hidden, but some, I've learned, are meant to be found at exactly the right moment by exactly the right person. The bank notices and final warnings are long gone now, replaced by glowing reviews and a reservation list that stretches months in advance. But success isn't measured just in profits. It's measured in the smiles of happy customers, in the warmth of family traditions, and in the magic that turns a simple meal into something extraordinary. After all, that's what Grandma Rose always said: food is more than just ingredients. It's memory and magic, love and legacy, all served on a plate. And here in our enchanted building, in our kitchen filled with 80 years of memories, we prove her right every single day.